Hello and welcome to another of our dental business transaction podcasts. And in today's podcast, I welcome Mark Topley, business coach extraordinaire. Mark is the second CEO of Bridge2Aid between 2011 and 2017. And in today's podcast, we're going to be talking about purpose-driven business, the Great Boss Academy, which is led by Mark, and also CSR, which for the uninitiated means corporate sustainability and responsibility. Good morning, Mark. Welcome.
Good morning. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me on, Lily.
A pleasure. So first question, let's get it out of the way. What's your background and what sort of led you to this chosen career path, Mark?
Oh, gosh. Well, depending on who you talk to, I've either got a varied or a checkered past. I trained as a teacher originally back in the early 90s, which for some people was before they were born. I understand that. So I started out teaching and absolutely loved it and had a great time teaching in quite a difficult housing estate just outside of Portsmouth on the south coast. But during that time, kind of got itchy feet a lot of the time. I wanted to travel, I wanted to go overseas. I was involved in sort of community projects and stuff in Northeast Africa, Ethiopia in particular. And after 3.5-4 years of teaching, kind of stepped into community project management, and that then led me into charity startups. I worked in the music industry for a while. Sort of touring and looking after bands, and then from that I was about to start a national production of a new musical which was going to go, and then suddenly at the last minute the backers pulled the plug, and so I took a month off. Thankfully my wife was working, and during that time came across a little charity called Dent-Aid, which a friend of mine introduced me to, did some work for them, kind of started to get an understanding of what oral health was all about in developing countries, and particularly how little provision there was of the absolute basics. So by basics, I mean, if you've got an infected tooth and it needs to come out, what do you do? Because there are no dentists in the rural areas, and the medics that are there aren't trained to take teeth out. And that kind of took me and my wife on a bit of a journey. We had friends who had started a charity called Bridge2Aid back in 2002. And so we spent some time with them out in Tanzania, really got the bug for what they were doing. And we were kind of hooked into, okay, this is something we believe in. These are people that we love. We want to work with them. We want to help them to make this vision a reality. My wife has always been sort of, poking me in the back to, we need to go and live overseas. I want to do something overseas. She's a nurse by background, so she fit in very, very well. And that took us to, we started living in East Africa back into 2005, came back in 2015. And during that time, we kind of started the Dental Volunteer Programme, as it was called then, which was all about training local healthcare workers in emergency dentistry. And that involved bringing a lot of dentists from the UK, nurses from the UK, to do the training one-to-one in the rural areas, which was great and groundbreaking model for the time, internationally recognised now. And that was something to be very proud of. And during that time, I kind of got the CSR bug, which was all about working with a lot of great companies on how they did CSR very well. Everything from single-handed dental practices all the way up to companies like GSK. So that's the kind of background, and it's been a journey, and certainly one that I didn't design.
No, it certainly was, and it's fascinating to hear that you lived in Africa for about 10 years. So that shows a real commitment to the whole thing, because some people can do this, they'll have a holiday, they're inspired, they'll come back and do some fundraising, and then life goes on. But this was a real commitment. So it's interesting talking about CSR, because obviously I was looking at your website, and there is a general awareness now. BlackRock's chief executive Larry Fink, as you've got on your website, says that he wrote to businesses at the start of 2021 to warn them that no issue ranks higher than climate change. It's a huge thing now. Investors are looking to de-risk portfolios. Tell us about CSR. Why is it becoming so important?
Well, Fink is a good guy, I think, genuinely. And I think BlackRock is trying to do the right thing. But make no mistake, it's a smart choice for investors. If you want to de-risk your portfolio, then one of the biggest risks at the moment is climate change, and also the loss of the social license to operate by being irresponsible in a community. And we've seen that time and time again with different companies across the world. I think there's been a gradual, over the last 20 years or so, there's been a gradual shift in consumer and particularly employee expectation about what they want from a business. The days of turning up and doing a job, collecting a paycheck and going home and that being enough have kind of gone, because people are looking for something different at work now, and they're very much more transient. Careers can change several times during somebody's lifetime, and what people are looking for is a way to say, well, when I go to work, I work for good people, and I work for people that care about the sort of things that I care about. So we've seen that kind of shift. The consumer shift has been big as well. And even before the pandemic, it was 9 out of 10 people saying, look, we expect businesses to do good as a normal part of what they do. We don't want to do business with people that are irresponsible or unethical, who don't pay their taxes. So those things were in place. And then the pandemic came along, and I think 2020 was the groundbreaking year, because suddenly all of these different sort of subcultures of Extinction Rebellion and sustainability, the need for sustainability, things around racist and sexual discrimination with Me Too, with Black Lives Matters, and then the pandemic all into the mix. Suddenly all these subcultures became mainstream, and now they're mainstream. And so every company that I speak to, and certainly a lot that I come across in the media, they're all asking the questions. We're the most obese and depressed generation there's ever been. The planet is dying at a rate of knots if we don't do something about it. And so every business is asking the question. Now, Mary Portas, the retailer, says there are two types of companies: the giver and the don't give up. And so not everybody's doing something about it, but everybody's thinking about it. And so I think it's the mega trend for businesses, and certainly the Sustainable Business Leadership Report, which was done last year. People and sustainability were the two big mega trends that businesses were worried about. And that's why CSR, because it's an answer to those things, has become much more important.
Absolutely. Gosh, it's fascinating to hear you talk about this, because it is such a, as you say, it's a huge thing. It's a huge new thing now, and people are far more aware about this. Now, would this be a good segue into talking about the Great Boss Academy, because this is something that you created, and who is it for?
Yeah, it's so Great Boss Academy came about as a result of the pandemic, and one of the things that happened right at the start of the pandemic was a good friend of mine, Chris Barrow, who I know you know Chris as well. He went from on the road 4 days a week, doing face-to-face work with practices, was like, oh crap, I've got to redesign my business model. What am I going to do? And one of the first things that he did was, how can we help all the people that are looking for answers? Because there was zero clarity coming from the CDO's office. There was very little clarity from the government initially to start with, and so he invited me to be part of a webinar, a forum which took place once a week on a Thursday night. So for 2 hours, 7 till 9 p.m, we would get on that forum and start chatting about and answering people's questions, basically. And during answering those questions, and we did a year of every week, and then we're just over a year now of every once a fortnight. So that's been a regular feature. And the overwhelming thing that I sort of spotted during that was that a lot of dentists who had got into dentistry to do dentistry had become principals and had done okay with the leadership thing, the being a boss thing, now were absolutely out of their depth. And, let's face it, who wouldn't be? And as somebody who didn't have any formal leadership training either, and was plunged into all sorts of crap when I was working in East Africa. I mean, you can imagine leading an organisation, the bureaucracy, the corruption, the day-to-day challenges of trying to get things moving, meant I had a few hard-won lessons under my belt, and I thought, well, actually, I can probably put something together which will help these people, and help them to feel confident about being the boss, which is the first thing, and then give them the tools about how they can then build that into how they run their businesses. And that's where the Great Boss Academy came from. So it's for people that don't feel like they're leaders and want to be great bosses. And that's it really.
So somebody obviously listening to this, or if they haven't already approached you, how does it actually work? So they obviously have an initial fact-finding discussion with you, and it's done online, Zoom. How many face-to-faces? What's the sort of format of the support service that you give them?
Yeah, the first thing is you head to great-boss.com, and there's a free scorecard to complete there. So it takes you to a little site, you answer 30 questions, and it will spit out a little report on, okay, based on your answers, this is how you're doing. And that can be interesting for some people, because some people are doing better than they thought they were, and other people who thought they were doing great go, oh crap, I'm not actually doing as well as I thought I was. But that gives you some answers about what you can get started with. So that's for free. If you want to join the academy, it only opens 3 times a year. So it opens in January, April, and in September. And at that point, you join the academy. You get 3 seats for your membership fee. So there's one for you, one for your practice manager, and one for somebody else that you're maybe developing in the business. And in short, what it is, we meet once a month on the last Monday of the month. We meet once a month. I'll do some teaching. We'll troubleshoot stories and issues that are going on. And then you have 4 days to complete a sprint. Now, the sprint is a plan about what you're going to focus on for the coming month. It's designed to fit into what you do day to day. It's not designed to be, I think a lot of people are like drinking from a fire hose when it comes to any kind of development, because they just don't have the time to fit it in. So this is designed to then seamlessly fit into your day to day. But you're asked for that sprint. You send it back to me. You work through your sprint, and then at the end of it, you do a reflective journal. There's loads of resources. There's a community online that can chat to each other and support each other. One of the best things for me about it is the interaction that we get on the calls. So you get a few people on a call and we say, right, what's everybody facing? And suddenly everybody's troubleshooting each other's issues. So it's a huge community type of thing. But it's designed for the busy principal, the one that says, I haven't got time to develop my leadership. Well, I think you have, because if you've got an hour once a month and 25 minutes a week, then I can help you.
Absolutely right. Because I think it frightens a lot of people, the thought of doing this business coaching. It's a bit like saying, in the old days, showing our age here now, but, enrolling for an evening class, and you think, oh, for goodness sake, I'm tired. And at the end of the day, they just put it off. People are always looking for, myself included, the easy road if possible, and avoiding knuckling down. But as you say, if you can fit this into a working day around a working principle, that is good. And I think also talking to people on such a forum not only can sometimes make you feel better about yourself, because you might think, gosh, I thought I was having a tough time, nothing like this person, or you can learn from other people and avoid it in future, or find someone that's shared the same kind of stresses and challenges that you do. So you cannot undervalue the benefits of talking in a group to other people, like-minded
Absolutely.
people, and it's all about being open and honest with them, isn't it, really? And then just not feeling you're on your own. Because as you say, becoming a principal is a huge mountain to climb for someone who has no business experience or acumen. And even those that do need to learn. Throughout lockdown, we took on, over years of intense business coaching. So when we came through it all, we were actually feeling so much better and supported and in a better place with the business. It would have been very easy to do nothing. And I joke about it, jump around to Joe Wicks and master baking banana bread, but none of that for us, We worked really hard to make sure that we understood the business we were in. It's that old adage, isn't it? It's working on your business and not working in it, and finding that time. And when you meet, do you meet in person at venues, or is it all still done online at the moment?
So it's all online, and it will probably remain online because it has to fit in. It has to fit in with what you're doing. It needs to be something which serves you. It's not another burden that you have to think about. But a little bit like, sharpening the saw, that little bit of time away working on things means that you'll be more effective. So, I always say to people that, look, if you can find time to do this, or you're going to have to make time to keep solving the problems that you've got in your business, because you keep making the same mistakes over and over. So a little bit of time, and it really helps with making you more effective.
Very good. I like those words. Do you you're not afraid, obviously, to have the hard word with someone. If you can see somebody that's just not doing it, not listening, but then coming to you, bleating about the same problems, you must have some difficult conversations sometimes with people.
Yeah, I think the thing is, you don't change anybody by making them wrong. But what you can do is you can have a positive coaching conversation with somebody. I think it's much better to encourage people in a direction and give them the belief that maybe they don't have. And asking the question of what is it that's causing you to not be able to get to this? Are you worried about getting it wrong? Do you not think you've got enough time? If you're a perfectionist and a procrastinator like me, you're going to avoid doing it because unless it can be perfect, then I'm not going to do it. So it's finding out what the real issue is and then coaching people to accept responsibility. But change only happens when people are involved in the process, not when they're shamed into feeling guilty for what they may or may not have done, as true as that may be. I
agree with you. It's about giving someone confidence, and it's that going back to that honesty and openness. It's getting someone to say, just tell me what is the roadblock here, because it can be fear of change. It can also be fear of challenging their colleagues at work and making something different. They don't want to be perceived as being the bad guy, but they need to make changes. And it's that fear of rocking the boat. So as you say, if you can give them confidence and give them the tools to know how to tackle difficult situations and to sort of, break some bad habits perhaps in the work environment or the way they're working themselves, it's good.
You're absolutely right. And I think the first thing that I try and instill in people is that you are the leader. You have a leadership identity and you've got to embrace it, because if you don't, then nobody else is going to lead. And then you end up with you're herding cats because nobody's really knows where we're supposed to be going or what we're supposed to be doing. So you've got to embrace that and have the confidence to do it. And I think that's the first step for anybody that wants to be a great boss is, well, you are a boss. So what are you going to do about it?
Yeah, just be a great one, not a mediocre one.
Absolutely.
Mark, why did you call your company Purpose Driven Business? It was a great name.
Yeah, I think everywhere we look nowadays, there are companies that have lost their purpose, and I'm dealing with somebody at the moment. It's actually a friend who's going through a very difficult time with the company that provides her office space, and this company previously was, it was a family business. It gave money to charity in the community. It basically helps small businesses to get started. The sort of companies that we're talking about. They're everywhere. And they've been bought out by a big corporate. And what happened with this is now that their rent has been hiked 29% in under a year. They're introducing a £50 a month parking charge for plus VAT for every person that works on site, and making it very, very difficult. Now that for me is a company that's lost their sense of purpose, because their purpose is we're here to help small businesses grow. And when that becomes secondary to what they're the actions that they're taking, then they've lost their purpose, and they're going to fail. Eventually it's going to fail. And I think being in touch with that sense of purpose at the core of your business is something which is incredibly powerful, because everybody understands we come to work, in the case of dentistry, we're about fixing teeth. We do dentistry. But if you can connect people to the purpose beyond that. So I've just done some work for a client this week, and their purpose is about helping their patients to feel heard. And that's what they've identified. We help people to feel heard, because when they feel heard, they'll accept the advice that we'll give them, and that will give them the best chance of great health, great dental health. So that now becomes their core. So it's not, our purpose is not doing dentistry, it's helping people to feel heard. So you can bet your life that's going to flow into the values of what they do. It's going to flow into how they measure each other and how they encourage each other. And for me, speaking, personally, my purpose has always been about helping businesses to make things better, whether that's the people that work for them, the communities that they're part of, or the environment. And so the whole purpose thing for me, it can be an incredibly powerful driver, but you've got to recognise that it's there. Because the purpose of a business is not to make profit. As Simon Sinek says, that's a result. The purpose is much deeper than that.
What are your plans for the rest of this year and moving forward? Do you have anything else up your sleeve?
So the Great Boss Academy launches again very shortly. So we'll be working on that and you know, growing the next cohort, helping them through things. I'm currently working with a number of large corporates and then sort of larger dental companies on their whole ESG strategy. So that's really exciting. And ESG is basically the investors speak for CSR. It's the same stuff, but you know, in a slightly different environment. So that's really exciting. I'm really looking forward to that. Got a few speaking engagements in, but I'm really enjoying the option to do a lot of stuff online, but step out into the world and see people face to face when it's the right time to do it. So I mean, you know, things will grow, continue to grow, new clients, new things coming on board. And just doing as much as I can of what I love to do, which is to help people to run businesses which make the world a better place.
Well done. And it sounds like it's good timing for people who are thinking of talking to you about the Great Boss Academy. What's the rollout like on that? So if someone is interested, do you have sort of, you know, people come in mid-term, so to speak? How does it work?
So what happens with every time a cohort comes in, we do a sort of induction. So there'll be a separate session for new people that join in April. We'll get you up to speed, and then you'll flow into the rhythm of the academy. So you'll have a call mid-month, which will be mid-May. That will answer all your questions, get you set up with your development plan, and then you'll be introduced into the main group. And then the next time we meet together, you're part of things. So that helps you to get up to speed without you know, wandering around a call going, what are they talking about? Because there's nothing like being the new person and not knowing what all the acronyms mean, isn't it? Yeah,
sitting at the back of the room, keep your head down. No, that sounds great. What do you do to unwind? Hobbies? Because obviously you're a very busy man. You've got a lot of things going on there. What's your leisure time like?
Well, I've got lots of it because I've deliberately done that. I think, you know, 5 years ago when I started this, you know, I'd had a burnout. I'd worked too hard. I'd done too much. I'd not made enough time for fun. So I have a rule. Golden rule for me is guilt-free fun every day.
Oh, I will do something. That, Mark.
I will do something. It could be as simple as, you know, going and buying a lunch that I don't normally have, or sitting down with a book. It could be as much as taking the whole morning off to take the dog on a walk. So we're currently doing a couple of national trails in our area. So we just bite off a chunk and take a morning and go off and do that. Because, you know, I think one of the things that I've realised, and this comes from a book called Win at Work, Succeed at Life by Michael Hyatt and his daughter Megan, is that we often see work as one side of the picture, and then life is the other side. But actually, if you see it as a clock face, work is one part of the clock face. There are loads of other points on the clock face that we can and should be paying attention to, whether that's family, our own well-being, our own physical fitness, our own mental health, you know, having fun. All those things need to be part of life, and what I found is that if you focus that way, then you get as much done as you would do if you were just focusing on the business the whole time. Because that law of diminishing returns, you know, you can only work in the business for so long and have the same level of productivity. After a while, it starts to tail off. So I prefer to work hard and focused and then have a lot of leisure time. You
speak very wisely, and I love that. Guilt-free fun every day. What we'll do at the end of our discussion on the video, we will list the name of the book that you mentioned, because it sounds like it's a very good read for somebody. Excellent. Mark, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I wish you all the very best for the coming year, and I look forward to meeting you in person. And it will be great to catch up again sometime soon. Thank you again for your time. It's been very insightful. And how can people get hold of you to hear more about this? What's the best point of contact?
Best way in is the website. It's marktopley.co.uk, and you'll find everything from there.
Simple. Lovely. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Lily.